came across a video by the YouTuber Pencil Collector about the state of Florida between the secession and joining the Confederacy. Link to it in the description. And I thought to myself, why not do my state, Georgia? So shout out to Pencil Collector. Georgia itself during this time wasn't as interesting as other states such as Texas, Louisiana, and Tennessee. But enough happened between January 19th and March 16th of 1861 to warrant a video in my opinion, so let's talk about it. Around the time of December 1860, the governor of Georgia, Joseph E. Brown, who was a firm believer in slavery and Southern rights, believed the election of Abraham Lincoln in the previous election would do away with slavery in both his state and the South as a whole. And he made a call to Georgians to resist the anti-slavers of the North, and in one letter he would state this: "What will be the result to the institution of slavery, which will follow submission to the inauguration and administration of Mr. Lincoln as president? It will be a total abolition of slavery, I do not doubt. Therefore, that submission to the administration of that of Mr. Lincoln will result in the final abolition of slavery. If we fail to resist now, we will never again have the strength to resist." Around the same time, there was an ordinance of secession from South Carolina, and during such, major celebrations happened around the state of Georgia. And Governor Brown called for a state convention to call for independence in Milledgeville, which at the time was the state capital. The convention itself wasn't necessarily fair, even though the state knew the convention would most likely pass secession measures, but they still had measures in place to ensure their victory, such as forcing all delegates to sign a pledge to support secession even if they had not voted for such. The official ordinance of secession of the state of Georgia was signed into law by Governor Brown and 293 delegates on January 21st, 1861, therefore making Georgia the fifth state to leave the Union, with South Carolina, Mississippi, Florida, and Alabama coming before in that order. But now let's talk about what actually happened in between then and the joining of the Confederacy. In the mountainous northern counties, there was pro-Union sentiment. This division in the state led to secret meetings and even small-scale conflicts within the state, such as one in Rabun County, where multiple fights would break out because, quote-unquote, not exceeding 20 men in this county who were in favor of secession. One little-known fact is that during this brief independence, Georgia actively debated forming its own international diplomatic relations. Ambassadors were considered, and talks even arose about independently negotiating trade with European powers, though these plans never fully materialized. However, the practical realities quickly set in. As other states began to unite, Georgia realized that maintaining full independence would lead to isolation and vulnerability. On February 4th, Georgia sent delegates to Montgomery, Alabama, joining representatives from other southern states. Only 4 days later, on February 8th, Georgia became a founding member of the Confederate States of America, although technically it wasn't admitted until March 16th. Many from the state would go on to play a major role in the Confederacy, such as Howell Cobb, who was a former Speaker of the House. He would go on to be the first president of the Montgomery, Alabama Convention. His brother, Thomas R. Cobb, was one of the main authors of the Confederate Constitution, although he didn't really do a very good job as he essentially copied the U.S. one. Another person was Alexander Stephens, who was made Vice President of the Confederacy. And lastly, Robert Toombs was made Secretary of State. This honestly makes me think Georgia was one of the most important states in the Civil War. So, I guess that's cool, I guess. Maybe not. Anyway, thanks to Pencil Collector for the idea of the video. I would say check out his video because it's a lot better made than mine, because I suck at editing. But anyway, also wanted to say hi to all my new subscribers from my last video about Philip II. I'm going to continue that series, but it might be another week before I release another video on that, due to me working on another 3-part series about the Golden Horde. I was just thinking to make that a documentary with no editing so people can just listen to it as if it was a podcast, because it's going to be over an hour long, all put together. But you guys tell me what you think. A quicker release with a podcast style, or a longer release with my terrible editing. But anyway, thanks for watching. I'll probably be back next week. See you guys.